Chairman Byer, good to be with you, and great to join the Joint Economic Committee and this great group of thinkers and patriots. And as we formulate together the advice and counsel economic policies to get our country back to the pre-COVID prosperity, I'm looking forward to working with you, sir, and my other colleagues in both chambers. Also recognizing Ranking Member Lee for his leadership. I represent a big swath of rural America in West Texas. And we have our unique challenges, and we have some unique benefits to being rural. But I'm very proud of what our state has done, Texas, to balance the various factors that are important, like the spread of COVID, obviously, but also the long-term effects of being isolated and kids being not in school in that very important support system. And whether it's substance abuse or deferred screenings and treatments, there are some major consequences to not getting back and reopening our country, going to work, and obviously with children in school. So no doubt having vaccines widely distributed and the effectiveness and the development of new therapeutics are absolutely key to that. But I've got a question first for Dr. Gunter about the big drop you said in demand in terms of taking the vaccines. And explain to me the reasons for the drop in demand with respect to the hesitancy factor. What are some of the reasons within the different demographics? Women, men, rural, urban, older, younger. I'd like to understand that whole dynamic of hesitancy as it cuts across the different demographics.
So if you look at the demographics and how that correlates with the type of vaccine hesitancy, what we see among communities of color and among younger Americans, it's much more questions of access, of not being able to navigate the system, of getting to a vaccination site. Maybe they're not able to take time off work because they're an hourly wage worker. There are some historic reasons for lack of trust. I mean, everyone always points to the Tuskegee study, but that it's actually a drop in the bucket. There's a whole history of this, even ongoing up until the present day. And I think this is where colleagues of mine like Rhea Boyd, Uche Blackstock, a lot of Black doctors have really done a tremendous job of reaching out to the community. And we've seen the impact already in terms of increased trust, increased confidence in the vaccines. That has not been done with younger people yet. But I think those two groups are a bit easier to get to because in general, their concerns tend to be pretty practical in terms of access, the costs and so on. Then you also have other groups, which includes more rural Americans, more conservative Americans, who just don't like to be told by the government what to do. They don't trust the health system or public health officials or the government. And so
talking to my constituents.
Excuse me?
You must have been talking to my constituents. I'm kidding.
Well, and it's funny, I actually spoke to somebody from Vidalia, Texas, which is between College Station and Houston, a different rural area, but also rural in Texas. And, some of this is also cultural. People want the freedom to do what everybody else like them is doing. And so if it's not what people in their community are doing, they're just going to be resistant. They're not always going to be able to explain exactly why. But we really need to be reaching out through the people who are credible in those communities, who they trust. And very often that is local healthcare providers, their primary care provider, who can really get through here.
Thank you very much. And with my remaining seconds here, Dr. Tabarick, I know a lot of employers that want to respect the personal freedom to choose whether to take the vaccine or not, notwithstanding the fact that we need to be better at communicating the benefits of that to that person, their family, and the community. But I think there'll be some legal liability issues and concerns that if an employer doesn't mandate that with their employees, there may be major lawsuits to bear. Talk about legal liability protections as an important factor in all this, and I yield back.
I think that's an interesting question. I prefer to leave that to a lawyer to answer the details of that. If I could, I just want to say one thing about vaccine hesitancy. One, some of it actually is people who already had COVID, and that's less of a concern. Some people, they don't want to be the first person to get it, but they're okay being the second person to get it. So I think some of it is going away over time. And let me just say one thing about vaccines. I don't like to be told what to, by the government what to do either, but I love vaccines. I love vaccines. To me, it's like a superpower, right? Because a vaccine gives you the superpower of immunity. And if we could get the superpower of being immune to bullets, who wouldn't want to be immune to bullets? But viruses have killed a lot more people this year than have bullets. So I am very, very happy to have the immunity to viruses. That's a great superpower to have. Everybody should have it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.